Hello, and we're back. I'm Ashman, and I'm here with Kixo.
Yes, hello.
So, in the last game, we found Dr. Ogai, and it turns out he shot himself. Um, I believe Koji. Koji survived.
Yeah,
Hooray!
Koji survived his fall into the well and was rescued by,
Special
L-
Agent Doctor Lady
yeah, Lady Doctor. I don't remember her name, I'm afraid.
Tanaba, something like that.
Maybe,
Tanba.
maybe.
Who's like got a sawn-off shotgun for some reason and is now super badass. And I believe so. The doctor lady knows a bit about what Doctor Ogai was up to. He took pictures of all his like stuff and then sprayed it out so that other people can't be affected by whatever voodoo magic shit he was up to.
Yeah.
And she was trying to understand who Saya is, who we all know who Saya is, but she doesn't. And I believe our main man Koji is pissed and is like, fuck this, I'm going to go and try save Yo.
Yeah, because Yo's in a bad way and he knows that.
So, shall we continue?
Yes, let's.
When he steps out of the cabin's front door, Koji shivers as the wind tears into his skin. To his surprise, the outside air is even colder than the mud at the bottom of the well. Perhaps the cramped space mitigated the cold somewhat. If he had been exposed to this chill all night long, he would surely have frozen to death. Koji finds two cars parked in the yard. The smaller car next to his must be Ryoko's. Ah, that's her name. When he sits behind the wheel of his car, he gets some relief from the feeling that he has taken the first step, however small, back into his world. He sips...
I was just about to say, I know that feeling. Like when you go into your car and I'm like,
Your area, your space, your familiar,
Yes.
like, yeah. He sips the sports drink, wetting his parched throat, then washes down some jelly. His stomach rebels at the sudden influx of food after 36 hours on empty, but he manages to force down the urge to vomit. Koji needs the energy. No matter how hard it is, he must regain enough stamina to overcome the challenges ahead. After forcing down as much food as he can handle, Koji leans back in his seat and takes a short break. When he begins to feel like himself again, he reaches into the back seat and pulls his spare cell phone out of his bag. He has a spare cell phone?
the whole time he had to spare.
Oh, he said he had an old cell phone because he got the new one and he hadn't transferred over, so he kept the old one.
Has he got a SIM card though?
Yeah. It sounded like that because he was still getting calls or messages in the old phone.
That's weird.
So he's probably like back in the day when you changed like service or whatever, you tended to get, I think, a new SIM card. It was harder to like just switch over. I think. I'm pretty
I
sure.
mean, the thing is that I've just been using the same SIM card since years ago. Apart from recently when I had to change it because of the whole thing with Vodafone. But we're not going to talk about that today.
This is 1990s, mate. So
Hmm.
I think in Japan, so it might be a bit different. I don't know. He never expected that carrying two phones would be such a stroke of luck. As he calls up Fuminori's number and prepares to hit send, Koji is overcome by a flood of emotion. Rage, despair, sorrow, pity. He is unable to decide what to feel toward his friend. However, there is no time to dwell on the past. Every second lost diminishes the chance of saving Omi and Yo. Koji refuses to consider that it may already be. Oh, look at that, he still thinks Omi can be saved.
She can be saved in the sense that she's still alive, but
Omi.
we don't know what's happened.
No, I was
Oh,
talking
sorry,
about
Omi. I thought it was talking about Yo for some reason.
It says Omi and Yo. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he thinks he can still save Omi.
Well, I was thinking of Yo, but I think I said Omi.
He steels himself and presses the button, then holds the phone to his ear as it rings. The shrill sound seems to go on for longer than it ever has in his life. Right now, Fuminori's phone must be displaying the name of the caller. Koji wonders what his reaction will be when he sees it. The call goes through. In the silence on the other end of the phone, Koji senses surprise, apprehension, and dark fury. Feeling slightly gratified, Koji delivers the first jab.
ようそんなに意外か死人からの電話は
This must feel good.
Yeah.
As Koji is about to answer, an idea suddenly comes to him.
井戸の底に仕掛けがあったのさ。地下の隠し部屋に行くためのな。
Oh, he wants to use his curiosity.
He pauses to let that sink in. Then, with satisfaction filling his voice, he says,
会えたぜ。大貝正彦と。
Ooh.
Mm.
Fuminori's gasp tells Koji that the advantage is his. Keeping his voice bold, he decides to further exaggerate the truth.
何もかも分かった。サヤってやつのことも全部。お前たち何もかもバラしてやる。ところ構わずにぶちまけてやる。
Man, that's a strong bluff.
It's obvious from Fuminori's tone that rage has overwhelmed his reason. Koji's bluff is working perfectly. His victory is tainted, however, as Fuminori's response to the name Saya brings a cry of anguish from the corner of his heart that still wants to believe his friend can be saved.
咲坂君がこのサヤと呼ばれるものとすでに深く関わっているのなら。
Ryoko's words play back in his head, sounding even colder than before.
彼はもう引き返せないところまで踏み込んでいる。
You mustn't allow emotion to sway him.
海のり、近江と筑波はどこだ？
Koji suddenly switches topics, trying to keep Fuminori off balance. It all comes down to this.
俺にだって情けはある。お前の出方次第では考えんでもない。お前がこれ以上誰も傷つけないというのなら、俺にしたことは忘れてやる。この別荘で見つけたことも。俺だってこれ以上、お前とサヤに関わり合いを持つのは願い下げなんだ。近江たちさえ無事に戻ればいい。
Fuminori's voice trails off. He's obviously trying to decide how far Koji can be trusted, and whether there's room for negotiation. Fuminori has been called out, and now it's time for him to show his hand. Fuminori pauses, then gives a knowing chuckle that sends chills up Koji's spine.
お前のところにいるんだな。
Koji is relieved to learn Yo's location, that she is at least still alive. At the same time, however, he remembers that horrifying phone call. It is clear now that Fuminori played some part in Yo's suffering. Had she already fallen into his trap back then? What has happened to her? How has she been treated?
念願かなってようやく僕の持ち物になったんだよ。お前と近江のお膳立てもようやく実を結んだわけだな。
Koji feels despair settle over his soul. How much lower will this man go? Must Fuminori seek out and destroy every memory of the friendship they once shared?
筑波を解放しろ。彼女の安全を確認したら、お前らについての証拠を破棄してやる。信用できるか。そっちが責任。お前に選択の余地を与えるつもりはないよ、文則。
Koji instinctively realizes that it's dangerous to push his bluff any further.
後でまた連絡する。それまでによく考えておけ。
He hangs up without waiting for a response. Fuminori doesn't know that Koji is still at the cabin in Tochigi. Right now, he's probably worrying about whether Koji will show up in 1 hour or 1 minute. Koji hopes that he'll be able to take advantage of Fuminori's confusion. 3 hours. That's how long it will take to race all the way back to Tokyo. Koji is afraid that his body won't carry him through such a long drive. His mind is clear, but his limbs still feel like half asleep, like they're weighted down with lead. Although he knows that he has to stay resolute, Koji still longs for the peace he had just a few days ago, when life or death struggles were the furthest thing from his... Back then, he could never have imagined himself fighting to rescue a friend from the clutches of a madman. With each passing moment, he feels himself becoming less like the person he was. When all of this is over, will he be able to return to his old life? Or will this change continue until it has consumed him utterly? Time is against him. Every second that passes is wasted. Even so, he decides to allow himself just 5 minutes of... For exactly 5 minutes, he leans against the steering wheel and cries. When his tears have run dry and his heart is calm, Koji starts up his car and drives away. Ooh.
What about the
Uh-oh.
doctor? She's alright with him leaving like that?
I think she was just like, don't get yourself killed. She's like, you're gonna get yourself killed, don't freaking go there. And then he's like, I don't care, I'm going. And she's like, why are you so stubborn? And then she's like,
but she's not gonna stop him.
yeah, she's just like, don't get yourself killed or something. Ah, Fuminari, you're fucked. Fucking feels good. I stare at the silent phone in my hand. There is anger, of course, but something cold and heavy holds my emotions in check. The sense of danger. To be honest, I'm surprised at how calm I am. Yo looks up at me apprehensively, her head between my thighs. She was attending to me throughout the call. Oh my god. The remaining fragments of her memory seem to have joined together, as she has regained some degree of speech. Upon realizing this last night, Saya began to teach her language once more. I assume she finds our pet's efforts. The pleasure from her ministrations threatens to impede my thoughts, and besides, my arousal has already vanished. At first I consider making her stop. When I gaze into her puppy dog eyes, however, I begin to think differently. Thanks to Saya, I have a family once again. For the first time, I am becoming aware of the responsibility that places on me. I am now the head of a new Sakisaka household, as well as its only male member. It is my duty to protect, comfort, and ensure the happiness of the women living under my roof.
I can hear you becoming increasingly more smug as you read this.
He is a fucking asshole. I'm going to make him sound like one. With that in mind, I know that I mustn't show fear or confusion. That would only cause them distress.
Fair, actually. You sound just as smug as he did right there.
I entrust myself to Yo's eager touch, basking in the pleasure with one part of my mind while contemplating our current predicament with the other. It is clear that I made a grave error when I failed to finish Koji off 2 days ago. Right now, I need to set my frustration and anger aside and deal with this problem logically. It's time to leave. I have no way of knowing when Koji escapes from the well, or how much he has learned, or how many people he has had contacted with since then. Now that it is impossible to know how far the problem has spread, merely disposing of Koji won't guarantee our safety. When the enemy has poisoned your water supply, you can't take the risk that even one drop might remain. Your only choice is to stop drinking the water. Aya returns from the kitchen. She'd gone in search of a midnight snack. She's munching on her favourite spare ribs. Purging myself of unease and impatience, I respond with a casual shrug. I like her non-freaking blasé attitude towards it. By breaking the news suddenly and without any trace of anxiety, I am able to avoid frightening Zaya. Instead, she is merely surprised. I knew that remaining calm would work. Moreover, I'm currently being pleasured by Yo. It would be hard for anyone to get too serious under these circumstances.
It's true.
I want the audience to kind of picture what's going on here. This
I am
dude
already.
is getting pleasured by
Yo.
a mind-fucked sex slave while talking to his supposed lolly love of his life. who's actually not what she seems, and has also attempted to murder his friend.
And is contemplating how to get rid of him.
And
Right
is
now.
being a smug asshole about all of this, as if he is this world's new god. So,
You really think he's going that way?
well, if not, he's sounding like it, and do you know what? Fuck this guy. Just... Saya lowers her eyes and strokes her chin thoughtfully.
まあ、どっちみち鈴見さんの一家が消えたのがバレれば、この近辺も騒がしくなってただろうし、遅かれ早かれ、こういう日は来てたと思うよ。
Ah, yes. Do you remember the Suzumi family?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes,
the next door neighbors.
the next door neighbours who had a wife and young daughter, who are now probably sitting in their fridge for food.
Yep.
I want people to keep this in mind. Think about this when you think of these characters.
You don't want anyone to forget anything that he's done.
No, I don't. Saya nods. I can tell that she's reluctant to leave, but at least there is no sadness in her expression. Everything will be fine. I will protect my life with Saya just as I have up until now. I have that power. Knowing that we've overcome one problem fills me with new confidence.
大丈夫。安心していいよ。さ、
We can travel light and take the Suzumi family car. I'd better withdraw everything that's left in my bank account and carry it as cash. I'll also need a weapon, something more reliable than a butcher's knife. Koji will most likely follow. He thinks that Yo can still be saved. However, I'm not abandoning this house just to run away. As long as Koji knows our location, we're stuck on the defensive. Leaving gives me the chance to regain the initiative and deal with him at a place of my choosing. The next time we meet, I'll kill him with my own two hands. I'll make sure to wring every last drop of life out of his body. A shiver runs through me as I anticipate the battle ahead, and my bloodlust burns like orgasmic fire. When Ryoko looks up, the morning sun is already streaming in through the window. Tired from hours of poring over files, she removes her glasses and massages her aching eyes. Her dreams are always filled with horror, yet the night she just spent was more nightmarish than them all, and it's not over yet. She has only just set foot on the threshold. As expected, the files left by Ogai Masahiko were not the sort that Ryoko could simply pick up and read. Fortunately, Ogai had been too old-fashioned to put his trust in electronic media. If he'd encrypted his files on a computer, she'd have had to find a hacker to decipher them. In fact, he had not employed any kind of code in his writing. That would have been too time-consuming by hand. The method of obfuscation he did use was quite simple. Of the files Ryoko pulled from his underground lab, the majority turned out to be notes and theses from Orgai's days as a student. The important papers were the diaries and research notes that had been scattered throughout the piles of worthless scrap. At first, she was unable to understand the documents that she had found. Each sheet was covered with text on one side and blank on the other. Each line was completely unrelated to the next, making it impossible to glean any meaning from the whole. The trick revealed itself, however, while she was sorting the pages that made no sense. She found that each line continued on the same line of a different page. In Ogai's diary, for example, the first day began in the first line, then continued not with the next line, but with the first line on the next page. Similarly, the second day was the second line, the third day was the third line, and so on and so forth. After filling all the lines on one set of pages, Ogai had torn them out and scattered them among his other files. There was no regularity to how the pages were numbered, of course. Unable to locate any sort of key or legend, Ryoko had no choice but to figure out the page order manually.
Sounds like a horrible time.
Yeah. Despite knowing that the task would be exhausting, Ryoko set to it valiantly. After separating all of the loose-leaf sheets from the jumbled files, she began the painstaking process of linking pages together according to the contents of their first line. She found that Ogai had dismantled and scattered his diary each time he completed a number of days equal to the lines on one page, and had done the same with his research notes every 30 pages or so. The diary was much easier to restore, because the entries varied in length. Later pages had a larger number of blank lines. The page with only one line, therefore, was the last page of the diary, and those with the most blank spaces would be considered closer to the end. Ryoko's perseverance has paid off, for she has already succeeded in restoring several volumes of Ogai's diary. As she reads them, she feels despair draining her spirit, as it has so many times before. This cursed feeling of powerlessness that comes with knowing hidden truths. Those who have tasted it once shall be beaten down by it again and again until the day they die. All secrets are connected, after all. Once you have glimpsed even the tiniest fraction of the world's true face, you have no choice but to watch in horror as the veil rolls itself back, inch by inch. All that remains is to wait for the day when insanity will crush your reason under its ever-mounting weight. I have succeeded.
This is the notes.
This is Dr. Ogai, eh?
Yeah.
I have succeeded in communicating with the organism. It shows enormous curiosity, and its intelligence is beyond doubt. You see research notes for confirmed vocal patterns and body language. Its appetite for knowledge is insatiable, and its learning speed is off the charts. However, it exhibits absolutely no desire to be recognized as an individual. Its ego appears to be quite weak, suggesting a psyche wholly unlike that of a human. The speed of the organism's linguistic development is astounding. When I laughed at its mispronunciations, it immediately picked up the concept of puns. Ever since, it has been employing its entire vocabulary in an attempt to find puns that will make me laugh. Perhaps in a few days' time it will have learned enough language for us to communicate freely. The organism's command of spoken language is now sufficient to facilitate higher level discourse, but although it has regaled me with questions all day, it remains unable to answer any of mine. Its replies suggest that it gained awareness only after materializing in this universe. It has no knowledge of where it came from. While I am disappointed, the fact that it has reached this level of intelligence only 1 week after starting to think tells me that there is no end to what I can learn from it. Hypothesis: it is not a naturally occurring organism, but was created by an even more sophisticated sentient life form. This would explain why it has no ego, yet possesses such a hunger for knowledge. It might be some sort of reconnaissance drone that was sent here from another world.
How did this guy find it?
That is a good question. He's not really said anything to that. Ryoko smiles humorously for the umpteenth time since she started reading. How wonderful it would be if she could laugh the diary off as the delusions of a madman or the work of a science fiction author. Alas, she knows far too much. When she thinks back to the many horrors that Ogai brought into her life, the words before her take on chilling credibility. I have confirmed that organism's brain power far surpasses any human's. This morning I taught it about prime numbers. After I explained the Lucas-Lehmer test for Mersenne primes, it immediately began to list examples that it had calculated in its head. I was only able to confirm by memory up to number 10, M89, but it continued to list further examples without any trouble. I left it to its calculations, and when I returned a few hours later, I discovered that I had written down more than 70 of them. Computers all over the world are currently working to calculate Mersenne primes, but the last one I remember being found was the 39th back in 2001. When I entered several of the results into my laptop and ran the Lucas-Lehmer test on them, I found that every one was correct. The same is no doubt true of the rest. After all, the organism has never shown the pathological need for respect that would lead it to lie about its accomplishments. I see no reason to doubt its veracity. If I could reveal to the world an expedient method for discovering Mersenne primes, the prize money would make me a billionaire. Of course, my current research is worth far more than any sum of money. I must keep it secret. The organism's computational speed exceeds that of even the most powerful supercomputers. I can only conclude that its cognitive faculties are beyond anything humanity can imagine. At the organism's request, we have begun a new field of study. Despite its immeasurable aptitude for mathematics, it now desires to concentrate on sociology and the natural sciences. Perhaps our math problems are simply too elementary for it. It has shown especially keen interest in the means by which organisms reproduce and multiply. as it possesses nothing that could be called emotion. I hesitate to use this description, but when it learned about DNA, it seemed somehow excited. In fact, the organism itself seemed surprised by its reaction. When asked about the nature of the impulse, the organism decided to label it instinct. If this description is indeed accurate, then this is an extremely significant development. It would mean that there is a deeper level to its psyche than just the knowledge it has acquired since coming to this world. If I can use this discovery to trace its roots, I may be able to learn what it truly is. Note: candidates for the plane and world of the organism's origin are discussed in my writings on the Silver Key, filed separately. I spent the whole day carrying books into its room. Apparently, the organism is no longer satisfied by the knowledge I am able to impart. It should come as no surprise considering its linguistic prowess, but the speed at which it consumes text is astounding. The diary continues for some time, chronicling the intimate relationship between Ogai and the organism. In the back of her mind, Ryoko imagines the old doctor climbing down the well in the middle of the night to hold congress with some inhuman creature in that bizarre laboratory.
You know what I'm reminded of?
What?
You know in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood,
Right?
the creature in the flask, the homunculus.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, I'm reminded of that. I know it's supposed to be the horrible, nasty flesh monster that we see in this, but I just see that little tiny black blob in the flask.
Talking to something from some other existence that you don't fully understand, but promising you some sort of power.
Yeah.
It is quite similar. I mean, she's not explicitly saying that she's promising him power, but he thinks that he can get some sort of power from it. So it is very similar.
Yeah.
The image is disturbingly similar to the nightmares that have shattered the science of many nights with her screams. What follows, however, makes even her worst nightmares pale in comparison. The organism has made a very strange request. This is the first time it has asked for anything other than food and reading materials. I can hardly believe it, but it wants to consume the sperm of living creatures. This is every nerd's dream come true. This is separate from its desire for food. Once again, it is describing this impulse as instinctive. Now that it has declared itself a life form that requires the seed of males, it has begun to identify itself as female. After today, I suppose I shall have to start calling the organism a she. Is the personality that she has begun to exhibit really just an imitation created for her amusement? Ever since she started to immerse herself in her literature, she has been acting astonishingly human. She identifies herself as female and already possesses an enormous store of cultural knowledge. Is she trying to create a human identity for herself based on these? I have seen her laugh, grow angry, and today she cried. Is she just copying her emotional displays? If not, then she is already. Is the soul something that any intelligent life form can acquire? I feel that I am witnessing something more mysterious than the genesis of life itself. Today is her birthday. Although it is a year late, I want to give her a special gift. Saya was the name of my mother's cat. In childhood, she was my sole friend and my beloved. I decided long ago that if I were ever blessed with children, I would give this name to my daughter. Happy birthday, Saya. Let this be the name of your soul. You have earned it. The ability that Saya has discovered in herself is showing more extraordinary results each day. I have no doubt that she is a kind of artist. What exactly is it that she created in her body from the rat semen I gave her?
Come on.
At this point, I can only surmise that it is a type of retrovirus, a reverse transcriptase enzyme that creates exactly what she desires. The rats that have been transformed by her art are so very beautiful now. The main enzymes secreted by her body and the various appendages she uses are discussed in detail in my biological observations, filed separately. Here, I will say this. By witnessing Saya perform her operations on several rats, I have gained much confidence in my theory that her body is designed specifically to manipulate the biology of other organisms. Ryoko looks grimly at the still unsorted mountain of research notes. When she finally manages to separate those papers, you'll probably find the many other files mentioned in the diary. Ogai's biological observations, at the very least, she wants to look through those before facing the thing called Saya. Under no circumstances does she want to go into battle unprepared. She looks at her watch and sees that it's already 7 in the morning. Assuming Tono Koji made no stops, he should be arriving in Tokyo about now. Now that it's too late, she wishes she'd stopped that stubborn fool from leaving, even if she'd had to shoot him in the leg to do it. This is getting kinda interesting.
It's already been interesting for a while.
Well, about Saya's background, I mean, everything else has been interesting, but I'm kind of curious now as to what her main purpose is. Is she just like something used to fuck about with our reality for some higher order of being or something?
Just seems like an alien life form discovered by this doctor.
But she described herself as being like a seed of a, what do you call it, daffodil plant that's just kind of like blown into the air and landed in this reality or this world.
Which is the desert to her, yeah.
So it's almost like she was created to by someone else as a, scout drone.
That's how the doctor described it.
Yeah, I think. But I'm wondering, but we'll see. Koji pulls up 2 blocks away from the Sakisaka house and stares at the silent building. In the bright light of morning, the house seems shrouded in the dark miasma, a black hole torn out of the landscape. Is it just a figment of Koji's imagination? Every window is closed, offering no glimpse of the inside. Koji has no way of knowing whether Fuminari is home. A pedestrian walks his dog down the street, glancing back at Koji through the windshield after he passes by. Koji isn't surprised by the attention. He hasn't bathed or changed clothes and spending the night buried in mud. He must look like a vagrant, even inside his car. When he looks into the rearview mirror, he sees the haggard visage of a man with one foot in the grave staring back at him. It's hard to believe that the tired, unshaven face is really his. If he stays here for too long, someone might report him to the police. He'd better pull himself together and get moving. He drives slowly up to the front of Fuminori's house, quickly checks to make sure no one is around and gets out of the car. Anyone who might be in the house probably heard the sound of the engine, but there's no point in worrying about that now. Koji walks swiftly through the gate and yard to the front door. He puts his hand on the doorknob, foregoing the bell. The time for such pleasantries is past. The door is unlocked and the knob turns easily in his hand. He puts his ear to the door and listens for any sign of life. He's acting like a thief, he realises with some shame. That is the least of his worries now. No sound from within. After checking the street again to make sure no one is looking, he quickly opens the door and disappears inside. An indescribable stink immediately assaults his nostrils. He is already prepared for anything, however, so rather than discourage him, the stench only sharpens his caution to a razor's edge. He has crossed this threshold many times in the past, and his memories of days spent here are still bright. So why? Why does he feel the same ominous, blood-chilling aura that permeated Ogai's home and cabin? Anger and sorrow siege Koji's heart as though a dear friend's grave has been defiled. Koji doesn't remove his shoes before entering. He knows why he's here, and it's not to be polite. Every storm shutter is closed, filling the house with gloom, and he can see nothing but pitch-black darkness through the open doors in the hallway. He should have brought his flashlight from the car, he thinks ruefully, then remembers that he dropped the light when Fuminori attacked him. It's still lying in the backyard of the cabin. The house might be empty, then again it might not. Each particle of the air seems charged with silent menace. Is his enemy lurking somewhere in the darkness? It's not hard to imagine Fuminori waiting for a chance to take him by surprise and finish what the well failed to. Koji walks down the first floor hallway, then climbs the stairs and checks the second floor too. He moves slowly and carefully, keeping his senses sharp, but feels nothing watching him from the shadows. After completing his round safely, he is convinced that the house is empty. He suddenly realises that his right hand is touching the cold steel of the gun in his pocket. He intend to draw the weapon upon encountering Fuminori? Now that Koji thinks about it, his own actions seem mysterious to him. What is he planning to do when he meets Fuminori? Will he lay into him with curses and epithets? Will he force him to turn himself in? Or will he? Koji shakes his head. This isn't the time for such hopeless questions. If he keeps thinking, he'll stop moving. If he stops moving, fear will paralyze him forever. His only choice is to keep marching on. He has to close the distance to his prey. In any case, Fuminori isn't home. What form their reunion takes will probably be decided at the moment of their meeting. All Koji has to do is not hesitate when the time comes. Still, why does the whole house smell like stagnant water?
Is that what the smell is?
Yeah, I think it's been described a bit like that before.
It's been described as like putrid and sewer-like.
Stagnant water can be like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert in smells. Maybe. Maybe it's worse. It's been 3 months since Fuminori distanced himself from his friends. Just what kind of life has he been leading all this time? Koji enters the living room and feels along the walls for the light switch. The moment he flips it on, the answer to his question is revealed. How far has Fuminori gone? Koji realizes that this is the first time he has encountered Fuminori's insanity in visible form. From the dust piled in the corners of the room, it is clear that the paint was not applied recently. How many nights has Fuminori spent surrounded by this maddening array of colour? Why? Such obvious signs were available. Why didn't Koji realize that something was wrong before it got this bad? Was he deaf to the dying screams of Fuminori's insanity? Was their friendship really so worthless? As he stands petrified in the unfamiliar living room, Koji directs his anger entirely at himself. If he could, he would like nothing more than to apologize to Fuminori for failing to help him through his suffering.
This is powerful, actually. The fact that the warning signs were there and no one saw.
It's hard though, isn't it? This is very reminiscent of people that suffer from depression.
Depression or any other kind of mental condition.
Health. Like they keep it to themselves and just give you a cold front, and you just think, what's wrong with them? Like, yeah, I understand that they have issues, but why are they being so cold? And you don't pry into it.
Yeah, you perceive them as being standoffish rather than needing some kind of assistance.
Yeah, but the problem is, a lot of people in that position probably push you away if you asked. You pried, like at least in this instance with Fuminori, he was just pushing people away. Like Yo was saying what's wrong and stuff like that, and he would just give a cold front. And we understand because we can see things from his point of view. Obviously, it's not like that in day-to-day life, but yeah, like it's not great. It's hard.
No,
it's hard to spot, and it's hard to. The way people are affected by these things is different for each person. It would be great if there was one thing that you could do, or one set of things you could do to help a person in a situation like this, but I feel it is.
Yeah, and I just feel it's been presented in such a real fashion. Fictional part of the story, be damned. I'm talking about the fact that here's a dude who had problems, and people with, you said it as well. People with problems don't really go out and say, "Help me."
No, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite. If I had the same problems, I wouldn't either. Like, I totally understand why they would do that, and I still realize that it's bad for them. But even then, I probably would do the same. So I wouldn't blame them.
No, that's why I find this quite striking. I'm like, this hits home a little bit.
Too real, man. We need some more BS lolisaya to take our minds off the issue of mental health. Koji feels that he might have been able to save his friend. Perhaps he is arrogant to think so, but if so, it is arrogance born of kindness. Koji passes through the living room and opens the sliding door that leads to the kitchen. When he enters, he finds that the most disturbing of the house's many senses is strongest here. Blood. The room is redolent with the smell of countless layers of blood grown stale over time. He peers into the well-used sink. Around the rim, he sees faint brownish-red blotches that water alone couldn't rip off. And more obvious are the stains on the dish rag. Such stains are proof that the rag has been used and reused countless times. But what could it have been used on to make it that sickening burgundy colour? Koji stares at the refrigerator next to the counter, as though it were a monster waiting to swallow him whole. He stands motionless until he is able to work up the courage simply to touch it. Then he steels himself, grabs the thick handle and opens the door. First he'll check the freezer, then the refrigerator. We're going to see this. The freezer is packed with frozen meat of varying shapes and sizes. As each piece is wrapped tightly and frosted over plastic, you can't tell what kind of meat it is. The meat in the refrigerator, however, has already been thawed for consumption. Charming. For a while he can only stare in disbelief at the 5 fingers beckoning to him from the back of the compartment. They are the long, slender fingers of a woman, their bluish tinge giving them the appearance of waxworks. Koji is unable to remember what Omi's hand looked like, even though he has kissed her fingers countless times. When he finished crying after his conversation with Fuminari, Koji promised himself that he would not cry again, and in fact, he does not. He regrets his decision, however. He indulged himself too early. He should have saved his soothing tears for this moment, for now he knows that truly nothing is sacred. At last, his doubts about Fuminari have been utterly obliterated. Koji pulls Ogai's revolver out of his pocket and wraps his hands around its grip like he would a charm. Its definite presence, its promise of merciful annihilation, is the only thing keeping his sanity intact. He will surely use it to kill Sakisaka Fuminori, not for revenge, not for justice, but to make this world once more a place governed by reason. For that purpose alone, he must eliminate the anomaly. He breathes deep, exhales, then lifts his hand before his face and stares at his spread fingers. Alright, he's not shaking. He's prepared to face his new objective. Koji sticks the revolver back into his pocket and pulls out his phone. Oh.
Wow. I didn't expect another choice.
So, even though this is only 42 minutes in, should we leave it there for now? Because it's 10 minutes to midnight and I want to take a quick break to spend time with the fam.
Yep.
Say, and be like, New Year, and then run back up to my cave again.
Good idea.
So, first of all, let me just, before I do anything, let me just save this, because
yes.
What is going on here? Because we're going to make a choice here. We're giving another a red and blue pill moment. And that'll be us for this video. We will catch you oh well, there's 2 options now.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun. We'll catch you. Or actually, I'm just gonna pause the video actually. So there's going to be a cut here. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, and then we'll carry on with this choice that we've been given. So see yous in a bit. And we're back from our little break. That was us just celebrating the new year. So this is probably not going to come out on the 1st of December, but Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, everyone. Let's hope 2022 is better than 2021 was.
Or as I say it, let's hope it's not as shit as 2021, because 2021 seemed to try to compete with 2020 on how shit the year was.
Yes.
And I think it won.
And you know what? Oh, really? Okay. I was just about to say that 2021 was 2020 Season 2, and this is 2020 Season 3.
Yeah, I thought 2021 was shittier than 2020 overall.
Yeah. Oh well.
We're not jaded. We're not cynical.
We're just 2 old-ass gamers.
I don't even game properly. I just play visual novels. Anyway, I was actually looking at a video on YouTube. Some cynical dude. What's his name? Sunny V2 or something. And he was talking about why do gaming channels seem to like lose popularity more, after being popular. compared to other types of channels. And it's like, yeah, it's easy. Anyone can play games, and you don't even need to show your face. Kind of like what we'll be doing here. Low barrier to entry, and it's like, to keep the interest of your audience, you know, you need to be different or have a unique personality or something like that. Otherwise, there's so much competition that inevitably your channel will start to die if you don't
just get crowded out.
Yeah, and it is a crowded field, and I'm not in this to make the big bucks. You know what I mean? Fucking hell, I've got like 1 viewer or something like that per video. So, I don't know. How do I specialize, or how do I set myself apart? Maybe my dazzling personality. But no, it was an interesting video. It was weird that was recommended to me. I swear the YouTube algorithm is weird, man. It's fucking almost psychic sometimes, and then sometimes it's just absolutely random as hell. So who knows. So we were given these two options here. We have found out that Omi's hand was in the fridge with a pile of her, what I could only describe as her insides.
Yeah, there was definitely like some rolled up intestines and stuff in there.
Yes, I was trying to be polite here, not describe it in detail, but yes. So having seen that and having become understandably pissed, we've been given two options. Now, I didn't expect actually to get two options at this point, but we can either call Fuminari or we can call Ryoko. Now, I suspect one of these is going to lead to an obvious what do you call it? Bad ending. I don't think I'd call Fuminori first myself. I think I'd call Ryoko. She seems pretty capable with her guns and shit. And she seems to have gotten an idea of Saya from reading the information from Dr. Ogai's little cabin in the woods.
Although our guy, I've forgotten this guy's name, Koji?
Yes.
Koji doesn't know that yet.
So we do.
Yeah.
Though Koji should know because she had the information that she was poring over at the time.
What I really want to know is why would he call Fuminori at all? He's in the same house as him.
So he knows that Fuminori is not here.
Hmm.
Because in the previous video, he looked through the whole house and didn't find anything. So he's fairly confident that no one is here.
Right.
So he wants to call Fuminori to probably find out where he is. And I think that's a bad idea. Him going in blind, Fuminori is expecting us. He's waiting for us to do this. And he's probably going to ambush us again because Koji does not have a clue as to what Saya is. And at all. Like, he doesn't. He just thinks Fuminori's gone mental. So Saya could just be a figment of his imagination for all he knows. So yeah, and he doesn't. The other thing I've just realized is he doesn't know what's happened to Yo. Like, we see Yo through Fuminori's eyes, but Yo has became, for all intents and purposes, a monster in physical looks with a broken human mind. So yeah, I don't think it's ideal for him to go straight to Fuminori. I think we should call Ryoko. What are you thinking?
I'm hesitant to call either person, really. I would run out of the house if possible, but since he is going to call someone, I would go for the doctor since she's the trustworthy person right now.
The most trustworthy, at least. I wouldn't call her trustworthy per se, but compared to King Asshole Fuminori-san, I think she's the better option. Okay, let's go for Ryoko. The ringing of her cell phone interrupts Ryoko's labours. When she sees that the caller is Tono Koji, she unwittingly breathes a sigh of relief.
田んぼだ。どうした？
緑
調べました。
Even over the phone, Ryoko can hear the change in Koji's tone, as is the dull, flat voice of someone who has had all the energy beaten out of him.
文則は人を殺してます。もう何人かもわからないほど大勢を。そして
How did he figure out he's eating him? Just the fact that they're in the fridge?
In the fridge and the sink had a lot of like marks around it, tablecloth. I think the kitchen was kind of covered in it. His first steps into Ryoko's world have already brought him face to face with something particularly gruesome. In consideration of his probable state of mind, she decides to say nothing.
それに多分つくばもう生きてます先生。俺が間違ってました。
君は生きているうちにこの電話をかけてきたんだから、まだ致命的な間違いを犯したわけじゃない。
Ryoko says, praising Koji in her own way. Whether he is comforted or not is up to him.
ともかくもう今度こそ間違うな。私が戻るまで動くんじゃない。君が相手にしているやつは一筋縄じゃいかない相手だ。
With her understanding of Saya deepening by the hour, Ryoko is able to make this declaration with new confidence.
文則はもう俺が生きてることを知ってます。誰に助けられたかまでは教えてませんが、ともかく奴は警戒してるはずです。
そうか。
Koji's actions were rash, but there's no point regretting them now. The more proactive approach would be to use the pressure that he's placed on Fuminari. Ryoko's involvement is still a secret. That makes her a wild card. Depending on how she plays it, this advantage could be decisive.
先生の方は何か手がかりはつかめましたか？
まだ十分な量とは言えない。
Ryoko answers, glancing sidelong at the loose-leaf pages still scattered across the table.
そうだね。夜までには目処をつけて、夜半には東京に戻ろう。それまで君は余計なことをせず、おとなしくしている。いい？
はい。
The lack of emotion in Koji's voice is actually reassuring to Ryoko. He's a machine now, able to do whatever it takes to accomplish a single goal, the extermination of Sakisaka Fuminori. He is even willing to accept help from Ryoko, whose principles hardly mesh with his. A praiseworthy change indeed. After Ryoko hangs up, she gloomily counts the stacks of loose leaf that still need to be restored. There's no time left. She'll only be able to get the general picture. If she has to go into battle with only fragmentary knowledge, then there's one thing that she absolutely must decipher. Ogai's biological reports, which should contain information on the strengths and weaknesses of the organism called Saya. All she can do now is pray for luck as she dives back into the mountains of paper. Today was the first time I've driven since my accident last summer. The proposition was always too to consider, given my inability to recognise roads and cars. Things have changed, however, in the 3 months I've had to adapt to my condition. I know what cars and pedestrians look like now, and even though I can't exactly see colours, I've learned to decipher lights and turn signals. I still can't read street signs, of course. Nevertheless, I managed to make it safely to our destination with Saya and Yo in the back seat.
The more we hear about how he sees things, the less these background pictures actually make sense, because they seem fairly decipherable, if you know what I mean. Whereas it seems like he can't recognize anything.
So everything looks like biological material, and you can see that on the roads there's like lumps and stuff all over the place, but clearly this road is just an empty road.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't know. Like, the other thing is that usually the text covers these images, so it's hard to actually get a good view of what everything looks like. But if you're driving a car and you see all these lumps on the road and stuff like that, and you have to think about what you can avoid and what's real and what isn't, the traffic lights is probably easy. He's probably looking at just where there's like a light and what position out of the 3 lights it sits in.
But it's like he says he can't see colors.
Yeah, but if it's a bright light, he just needs to look at the position it is within the three. So the bottom one will be red, say, and the top green. I don't know. I mean, it could be anything. These are... I don't know who drew the CGs compared to who wrote the story, but I suppose it's just a total mess. That's how you kind of picture it. But he's able to walk around the place.
Yeah.
So he's able to see enough to be able to see where the road meets the wall.
That's true, yeah.
So I don't know. It was Saya who came up with the idea for our new hideout. An abandoned building she'd discovered while living with Dr. Olgai. In these hilly suburban residential areas, it's not hard to find thick patches of underdeveloped forest just off the beaten path. Saya's old playground is located in one such secluded area, affected by the flow of everyday life. It used to be a privately operated sanatorium hidden among the silent trees. After the owners went bankrupt, it remained unsold and was eventually forgotten. So you have decided to hide out in a sanatorium, for fuck's sake. I would not hide out in a sanatorium, man, if there's a last place on earth. After I left Saya and Yo at the hideout, I returned to town to make some preparations. Now I'm finally back at our new refuge. I liked this ruin from the moment I saw it. Mountains of construction materials and garbage litter the front yard, forming a serviceable barricade. This place looks even less likely to receive unwanted attention than our house. Since my brain sees humans as revolting monsters, places they've been tend to stink or seem covered in filthy slime. Ruins like these, long empty of life, are the places I find the most restful.
Tadaima.
I call out to let them know I'm not a stranger. Then I go down to the basement where they're hiding.
おかえりなさい。車平気だった？
もう全然問題ない。一方通行の標識もどういうのか分かったし、スピードさえ出さなければどこを走っても大丈夫だよ。で、
一通り調べたけど、やっぱりあれからずっと人が来た様子はないみたい。ここは安全だよ。
そうか。ならいいんだけど。
I'm a little worried that this abandoned building could become a hangout for biker gangs or homeless people.
多分表に積み上げてあるゴミのせい。あれ普通の人間にはちょっと耐えられないんじゃないかな。
I'm not sure. That's the kind of thing that would usually attract squatters because they're like, ooh, empty property.
I love this. It's like, damn those homeless people. How dare they want to hide out in this place when I need to hide out for my monster lolicon, whatever. It doesn't bother me at all. I'd rather like it, in fact. But of course, normal people would feel differently.
で、Fuminariの買い物はいいの見つかった？
I wonder what he was shopping for.
Let's see.
ああ、もちろん。
I proudly unwrapped the weapon I just bought from a camping goods store, a 1 meter long wood axe, the biggest and sturdiest I could find.
刃渡り15センチ以上のナイフは銃刀法違反だなんて張り紙してあるのに、その隣でこんなもの売ってるんだよ。お笑いだよね。
I gripped the axe with both hands, testing its dependable weight, and swing it like a baseball bat. The deadly steel blade sweeps through the air right where a person's neck would be. Yo, who's sprawled out on the floor, flinches at the sound and curls herself into a ball.
切れ味とかどう？量で試してみたら？
Let us just pause in this sentence for a second.
Like, she's supposed to be his new family, and then they're like, oh, let's test this axe on her. Like, what the fuck, man? Come on.
いや、それはちょっと。
What, does this guy have an ounce of a fucking conscience? I definitely wasn't expecting Saya to suggest anything so brutal.
心配いらないよ。今のような体だったら 刃物とかの傷は割と簡単に治っちゃうから。
いや、それにしたって痛いだろ。
そっか。うん、そうだね。
It must have slipped her mind completely. She smiles at the oblivious Yo as if to hide her embarrassment, then says,
でもさ、痛くされた時のようの声って、それはそれで可愛いよね。
Her screams are pretty adorable, don't you think? God damn these people.
いや、やっぱり人間に斧で切りかかるってのは気が引けるよ。
Well done, Fuminari, for showing one small ounce of humanity.
そうなの？じゃあ、コウジさんは？
そりゃだって。
Easy!
I mean, he bought it for him, so...
It should be obvious, but I guess Asaya still doesn't understand.
やつは僕には人間に見えないから、切ろうが潰そうが平気なもんさ。
そんなに違うんだ。
I don't see him as human, so it is easy for me to kill him.
He's saying it literally, just like when he killed Yosuke.
Now, Saya isn't human, and so this must hit home a little bit differently with Saya.
But he sees her as human.
He sees her as human, but she isn't. So that I feel that's important. But let's see.
そうさ。人間には良心があるからね。どんなに憎い人間だろうと、人を殺すと思うとブレーキがかかるもんだ。そこが僕の称賛でもある。
本当に？
Saya seems awfully subdued. I guess she's concerned about what will happen when I have it out with Koji.
体格じゃあいつが上だし、普通に喧嘩したんじゃ勝ち目は薄いかもしれないけどね。でも、僕にとっての化け物退治が、あいつにとっては人殺しなんだ。こいつは大きいよ。あいつはきっと、最後の瞬間で隙を見せる。
なんだか不安なんだよね。そういう心理戦っていうの、確実じゃないっていうか。
She raises her head and looks straight at me.
ねえ、やっぱり私が買った方が良くない？
Oh. I appreciate Saya's consideration. Even though it could be interpreted as a lack of faith in me, she's still putting my safety above hers. Nevertheless, I can't accept her heartfelt suggestion.
サヤの腕力だとさ、ヨウみたいな女の子なら楽にねじ伏せられるだろうけど、男を相手には厳しいと思うんだ。
He's forgotten about Yosuke, hasn't he?
Well, she struggled against Yosuke, didn't she?
She had taken... well, actually, yeah, good
Yeah,
point.
he came to save her, so... The bitter memory of Saya's is still fresh in my mind. Saya falls silent for a moment, seeming to understand what I'm thinking, but then comes right back to stubbornly press her case.
でもね、あのおじさんも最初の不意打ちはうまくいったの。大抵の人間はね、作用を見たら力が抜けて動けなくなっちゃうんだよ。
I use my ugliness to scare them into defenselessness.
病院だってそうだった。
I mean...
平気で話しかけてきたのって文則だけだよ。
I mean, it would be very startling if something inhuman just came at you. Like, how the fuck would you react?
Yeah, I mean, true. I need to prepare myself for that case. I don't want to be eaten by a Saya-like monster in the near future.
It's worse than like a spider just coming at you super fast.
Oh my god. I just picture a giant spider coming at me and I know what I did. I would fucking run.
Yeah, you're like, ah, no.
I'd be like, oh, fuck this. I can't imagine it personally, but I suppose it's possible that Saya's appearance is shocking enough to make someone lose their nerve. Suzumi was able to gain the advantage because he had the same condition as me, which let him see Saya as a cute girl. Fear doesn't necessarily make people weaker, however. Depending on the situation, it can even send someone into a berserk rage and make them harder to put down. In other words, such a tactic would be the same sort of gamble that Saya is worried about.
じゃあさ、さや。こういうのはどうだろうか。
When I tell Saya the new plan that just popped into my head, her gloomy frown turns into a bright smile.
それめえやん。ふみのりって頭いい。
Look at us, totally immoral, psychopathic killers thinking of ways to kill people. Aren't we great?
Yeah, she's adorable when she does it, though.
Oh, it's okay. You look cute. You get a free pass.
何もそこまで。
It's not exactly a great plan, but I guess the fact that it lessens the risk to me is enough to excite her. She's so easy to please, but that's part of what makes her so cute. Kawaii!
で、いつ頃来るの？コージさん。
When's he coming? When's he coming? When can we kill him? When can we kill him?
わからない。
You know,
いずれ奴の方から電話があるだろう。そしたらここに誘い出して仕留める。
I was about to say, how the fuck would he know?
So he doesn't know where Koji is. He will assume that Koji's at the house at some point because he knew that that's where Koji would come to try and find him. But this is the thing that makes me think that we chose the right option here, because they would have just, as soon as we called him, he would have tried to lure us to wherever they are. We would have went because we're stupid and, you know, really angry finding out Omi is now their dinner, and we would have ran into a trap. They would have finished us off when we got there. That's what I think would have happened. But yes, let's see. Koji will come. I know that he won't leave us alone. We could just keep running now that we've started, but I want to eliminate Koji as soon as possible. Therefore, when he contacts me, I intend to meet with him unless it's an obvious trap.
せっかく人間一人分の肉が仕入れられるのに、ここだと腐らせちゃうね。冷蔵庫ないし。
Oh, what a shame.
Are they sure they don't have a fridge here?
餌にできないか？野良猫とかカラスをおびき寄せてさ。
Thinking outside the box here, aren't we, Fuminari?
それ危ないよ。万が一取り逃した時、よそに持っていかれて他人に見つかったら大騒ぎになるよ。
Oh,
It sounds
Sai.
like she's talking from experience there.
Yeah, you've really thought about this. It's almost like you've done this before.
そっか。それもそうだ。
Humans are extremely dangerous, and their filthy, stinking bodies make me sick just by being nearby. Ironically, however, nothing tastes better than their meat. I truly regret having to abandon our well-stocked fridge.
まあ、この辺だと森にもいろいろと住んでるから、そんなに食事には困らないんじゃないかな。
3人分だよ。大丈夫かい？
I forgot about Yo.
How could you forget about Yo?
Are they feeding her bits
Clearly.
of humans?
Clearly.
任せて。これでもさや、狩りは得意なんだから。頑張っていっぱい捕まえてくるよ。
Look at you, working working kid.
そうか。じゃあ、今日からはサヤが一家の大黒柱だな。
Ah! He made the joke!
Isn't this great? Aren't we a wonderful little family of psychos?
So the house husband is the murderer, and so is the child wife?
The
Whatever.
child wife, the fucking, yes. This, oh. Saya giggles happily at my praise. I find these childish qualities of hers adorable.
今度はどのぐらいのんびりできるかな。
Because of the casual way she says it, I almost miss the emptiness to which her question leads.
どのぐらいかな。
Pretty
Saya's
sure
right.
that's not what he said.
This won't last forever. No matter how safe this hideout might be, we'll have to abandon it eventually. The slightest mistake could put our life together in jeopardy, just like when I failed to silence Koji. Some dumb kids might decide that this old ruin is a good place to test their courage, or this land might be targeted for new development. In order to be together with Saya, I have chosen to live apart from society. We live in a society, and I don't want to be a part of it.
He doesn't live in a society anymore.
We will never find lasting peace in this world teeming with humans, not unless we can somehow escape from it.
長い旅だと思えばいいさ。
Oi, 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 did you just forget you in that?
Yeah, he did.
I pull Saya into my arms and fold my hands around her slender shoulders, then whisper.
どうせ人生なんて旅みたいなものなんだ。永遠に変わらない場所なんてない。時の流れを見送るか、自分自身が流れていくか、それだけの違いだよ。
そうだよね。
Saya smiles softly, perhaps in resignation, perhaps in sadness. Either way, there is peace and contentment in her expression.
それでも一人ぼっちじゃないし、だからさやは寂しくなんかないよ。
ああ。
I have no regrets. As long as I can hold Saya in my arms, as long as I have my little waifu, I will gladly pay any price.
それにね、
He adds brightly, trying to cheer me up.
いつかは私たちが人目を忍んで暮らさなくてもよくなる日がきっと来るよ。
Sounds like she's got plans.
約束してあげるから。
This genuinely worries me. What the hell could she mean by this? It sounds like a fairy tale, but for some reason, she seems absolutely certain.
それは明日かもしれないし、ずっと先のことかもしれない。いつ印が来るのか私にもわからないの。初めてのことだから。
Oh? It's my first time, so even I don't know when the sign will come.
ほんのちょっぴり怖いんだけ
Is
どね。
she maturing into an adult or something?
That would make sense. She's been absorbing his DNA and other DNA and playing around with it. It's been speculated that she's some sort of forward scout or drone for an alien race or some sort of higher level of being, and she's now talking about a sign that will come, which almost sounds like a sign of will come when she has prepared for whatever her purpose is. Ooh, this is getting interesting. I have no idea what Saya's prophetic words mean, but this isn't the first time that she's said or done something mysterious. She's performed any number of miracles already.
僕らにも希望があるのかい？
She says with a cheerful nod.
きっとそれがさやが文則に送ってあげられる最後のプレゼント。さやの最初で最後の務め。
Now, assuming that this wasn't a fucked up visual novel like it is, and this was like a normal relationship, that sentence would be a red flag.
Yeah, it's straight up like we're going to be ending things.
Yes. Ooh. Now, I think at this point, I'm going to stop this episode. Are you good for going to go for another episode?
Totally.
Awesome. Right, we'll stop for now because we've reached the kind of hour and 50-minute point almost. And we will catch you in the next one. So I'm Ashman.
And I'm Cookcell.
And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.